When one thinks of Victor Parsonnet, you hear of this handsome, talented surgeon who's still playing tennis at this young, tender age that he's achieved. You're only scratching the surface.
When I was a younger man, I was chairman of the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. And those were years in which New Jersey really had to make up its mind. Should an investment be made in Newark? Should an investment be made in the Newark Museum, the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra, the New Jersey Ballet? So it was easier to make that plea for support for the arts as long as Victor Parsonnet was at the helm of the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra.
My father was on the board years ago, and when I was a kid, I remember seeing orchestra members in our home. The conductors would come to the home and socialize with us after concerts. But when the orchestra wound up in Newark, through the influence of the Governor Kane, it was a tremendously important thing, because I realized that this was a big arts organization getting bigger with time that lent culture to the city.
Victor has always been a visionary, and I think that that's one of the most endearing things about him. And he feels very strongly about arts education and audience development, two causes that we also hold dear.
I think Victor's impact can be measured in one word, and that's visibility. Wherever he goes, he brings the orchestra with him, and he travels the world, and always with the NJSO at his side. He seeks opportunities for the orchestra, tries to identify how people can connect with the orchestra.
Well, the most important of many legacies that I can think of in terms of Victor Parsonnet is how important it is to stay true to where you're from, to stay true to your profession, to be honorable, to be decent.
So many people are prepared to move on as they enjoy their successes, forget their roots, where they come from. Victor Parsonnet is not of that ilk. Victor is someone who has never forgotten where he came from. He's never forgotten his family roots. He's never forgotten his roots in the city of Newark and what it's meant to himself and his family.
I'm thinking back in 1967 when we had the riots. It was devastating. I was assistant director then. And there was a great decision amongst our board. What should we do? Maybe we should go to the suburbs. But I'm very proud to say that the board, to a person, voted to remain in Newark and to help build the city back to its prominence.
This hospital was in the South Ward. It was the only major hospital in the area. And the temptation for moving to the suburbs was, I thought, immoral. We had to stay here because we would leave a huge vacuum for patient care. It sounds moralistic, but at the time it seemed to be the only right thing to do.
When I became director in '68, Victor came to me with the idea of doing open heart surgery. But he said there was the programs out in Cleveland and other parts of the country, and he would like to bring it here to the Beth. There was nothing like that in the state. Through his energy and his ability and his persistence, he made it possible to build a department that made us in the forefront.
It's important to keep in mind that NBI was somewhat of a community hospital in the 1980s, and the idea to start a heart transplant program in a community hospital was somewhat peculiar. As the story was told to me by many of the staff who worked here in those days, Dr. Parsonnet actually approached the administration about this, and initially it wasn't clear that this hospital was actually going to go down that line.
Well, the impression that this was a man of great talent, very intelligent, And also, I may say, Side was a great tennis player. He was tenacious in his tennis playing. He never wanted to lose. His habits were the same way in terms of his surgery. He didn't want to lose a patient. He didn't want to make sure everything was right here at the hospital. He had a great feeling for the Beth.
I believe it would be fair to say that much of what Newark Beth Israel is today is a reflection of what Dr. Parsonnet put into action back in the 1970s and 1980s.
Shortly after I joined the board, we had the unexpected departure of our president and CEO, and got the inevitable phone call from Victor, who said, "Steve, you wouldn't mind stepping in for a little bit, would you?" And as I said, you can't say no to Victor.
It was difficult to say no to Victor because there was nothing in it for Victor.
He just was a perpetual idea person. He was always ready to put the time and energy to convert the ideas into a reality.
Victor Parsonnet is an icon in medicine. Having Victor at Newark Beth Israel Medical Center is having a part of medical history as well as having someone who pushes us to be innovative and clinical leaders throughout our country.
For me personally, when Victor Parsonnet steps into a room, the lights seemingly get brighter. People are anxious to reach out to Victor Parsonnet. He really is one of Newark's first citizens.